Well, nobody can say that the life of a mobile gaming YouTuber isn't interesting. I spent this afternoon putting together a video to showcase a brand new game to all of you guys, which will now go live later this week, and suddenly I get the announcement that we have patch notes. Not only do we have patch notes, we have balance patch notes. That ephemeral thing that NetEase seems ridiculously reluctant to do, we actually have patch notes, and I literally have 30 minutes before the kids arrive home from work, all hell breaks loose in the house, and then we have to run off to gym. So here we go. Benzie is going to be going over the patch notes as quickly and as efficiently whilst also being as accurate as possible. If you enjoy this, oh boy, this is going to be an experiment, then hit like on the video, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Otherwise, we're going to jump straight in on this one. Shortest intro to a video ever, right? Anyway, dear pilots in New Eden, Eve Echoes will undergo maintenance on the 16th of November 2022 at 0800 UTC. Only 2 hours. Normally these take like 4 hours to go through, though admittedly I'm not holding my breath that they manage it in the 2 hours. Expect an extension on this one, and therefore maybe a few extra skill points if they're feeling really nice. First of all then, let's have a look. Balance adjustments to the ships. Mordu's Legion, straight out the gate, ship flight velocity increased by 15%. This is a really good change. Now, the Gamma, the three Mordu's Legion ships aren't necessarily in a particularly bad place right now, but there's not much reason to overly fly them. Like, there's not really that much reason to fly a Barguest over a considerably cheaper Typhoon 2, for example. Ultimately, the Mordu's Legion's vessels are designed to be scram-kiters, by which I mean they are using warp scramblers with the additional range that they get from the ship bonuses, and they are going to use that to keep someone else at bay. Their only real threat should be things like, for example, Sanche's Nation, that are basically using micro warp drives with, you know, afterburners equipped. Otherwise, anything that is a micro warp drive ship, the Mordu's Legion ships just scram them, turn off that micro warp drive and keep them at bay and keep them held. That is what they're supposed to do. They were a little bit slow for that. I hope 15% should be enough. I honestly think it will be. That is quite a big buff to the Mordu's Legion ships. Who knows? We can just pray that that is enough. I really like the Gamma. I would like to jump into PvP a bit more, and since I'm mainly missiles and drones, there aren't really many drone ships that are good for PvP at small size, except I guess maybe the destroyers. The Worm's not quite where I'd like it to be either, but hey, this gives me a reason to undock the Gamma and actually give that a spin. Angel ship flight velocity has been increased by 5%. Again, this one's quite surprising. We got a flight velocity bonus to all Angel ships. You know, all three of them, all three of the faction ships for Angel Cartel have now had a flight velocity boost. Certainly the Dramiel, that makes the Dramiel actually now the fastest ship in the game. If it's a flat 5%, that now overtakes the Daredevil and the Slasher 2 Interceptor, which is not how it is in EVE Online, but with how EVE Echoes works, I genuinely think is how it should be in EVE Echoes. It's also, interestingly, having just put out a Stabber 2 video where I talk about how the Stabber 2's main advantage over the Cinnabal is that it has a slightly higher flight velocity. That's no longer the case. The curse of Captain Benzie and his video output does continue. The Cinnabal is now going to be faster than the Stabber 2, and the Macariel should be now the fastest moving battleship in the game by a margin, which, again, is how it should be. These are good changes. I'm glad to see these. It's fairly, I say it's fairly minor. 5% is, again, actually quite large, which really shows how big 15% is. Considering that these ships were already on the verge of being the fastest, 5% is enough to push them over that into the fastest. I suppose this is also a bit of a response to the fact that back in April they did nerf the flight velocity of every single ship in the game pretty much by just nerfing the bonuses from command, like cruiser command and stuff like that. So yeah, good change, I'm happy with that. Although it does still screw over missiles because missiles still have application problems. Their primary application problem is based on speed. Missiles are now going to struggle even harder against Mordu's Legion and Angel Cartel ships. Anyway, let's have a look. Raised the special hulled cargo capacity for Amar and Minmatar industrial ships. So my Wreath 2 looks like it's getting a bonus to its ore hold, and the structure hold on the Amar ships is getting a bonus as well. That does seem weird, because I don't think I've ever heard anyone complain that they didn't have enough space in a bestower. Like, for crying out loud, that ship just... Oh, okay, whatever. It's a buff. It's a buff. I don't want to get bogged down in this one. It is a buff. I don't honestly see it as a necessary one, but I'll take it. If it means my Wreath 2 gets to carry even more ore around, then I'm okay with that. It just means the payout if someone ever actually catches the bloody thing is going to be a little bit bigger. Increased the fuel compartment hold capacity on all ships by 4 times. Oh boy, so that whole thing that they've just introduced, the new fuel system where you inject the fuel directly into the ship and it then uses that from inside the ship when calculating how it's going to work on things like scanners and command bursts and stuff like that. That is now 4 times more fuel is being held. I see that as a good thing. That is genuinely a good thing. It means you have to dock up less often. It means more fuel is going to be instantly consumed, thus driving the prices up in the PI fuel market. PI is the one market in the game currently working really, really well. And if anything is going to impact the fuel market, I'm all for that. Make my fuel even more worthwhile. Cruiser 2 has 2 new single attribute resistance bonuses of 15 and 25% respectively. Nice! That's really cool. Types of resistance vary due to different technologies each faction is capable of. So I imagine that's going to be like the Caldari getting a bonus to its shields, Mimitar getting a bonus to shields, and Amara and Galente getting a bonus to armor. We'll have to look into that. I've just done a load of videos on the Cruiser 2, and they've basically invalidated the entire point. Cool, but it does mean the Cruiser 2s are actually going to be considerably more tanky. They do have that 5th low slot with the additional bonus here, resistance bonus of 15 and 25%. Again, those are big buffs. That is a really nice change. Hopefully that will give the Cruiser 2s some use, especially the Stabber 2, since it is no longer the fastest cruiser in the game. The Cinnable does take that title back. Barghest missile explosion velocity raised to 7.5%. Good. This means that the Barghest is now actually better at hitting with those missiles. That is a good thing. We need this across the board on all missiles. We need a way to increase the explosion velocity, or reduce the explosion velocity. No, increase the explosion velocity. I am right. Increase the explosion velocity across the board on all missiles. We need a skill for that, but hey, for the Barghest, at least that's a nice buff there. Again, in addition to its flight velocity going up by 15% as well. That is a nice buff for anyone who is either already flying a Barghest or considering flying one. Time to dust off a Barghest and actually jump into that for a video, I think. Enhanced versatility on Nestor ships, added armor link module and logistic drone bonus. Epic. The total amount of other bonuses remains unchanged, and the bonus skills are rematched. Archon Fighter optimal range raised to 7.5%. So okay, sorry, that's 2 separate ones. So the Nestor is getting some much needed love. We have an armor link module bonus now as well, which is really cool. Not just shield field. That's really nice. It gives you an actual armor link battleship. So this makes the Nestor the armor link equivalent of the Nightmare now, which is awesome. And logistic drone bonuses, which means the Nestor can really do some work as an actual logistics battleship. I am super happy with that change. That is a really nice change to the Nestor. It's a little bit out of the box, but I love it. Finally, Archon Fighter optimal range raised to 7.5% for its bonus. This is a nice change. The Archon is one of the carriers that is seeing least use at the moment from what I gather. Hopefully that will bring it back in line with some of the others. Ship mode. Under sniper mode. Ooh, this is exciting. Under sniper mode, added a 25% scan resolution. Ship velocity penalty decreased to 90%. Raised drone control range to 125%. So drone range on snipers like the Vexor sniper is getting a buff. They are actually going to have longer drone range now. It does calculate this based on the flat drone range of the ship plus your skills. It does not increase based, if you add in any drone range rigs, for example, like the command range rigs. That isn't going to affect this, but it's 125% boost now, which is a much nicer boost, and 25% scan resolution is really good as well. It does give them the ability to essentially be that good old tornado fit of basically instant locking onto anything that happens to come through, which for a sniper, that's going to be really nice to see those get a bit more use in PvP. Vetamune, if you are watching this, get out in a Stabber sniper, film a load of footage. I want to see what you get up to in that ship now that it has that scan resolution. That is going to be so much fun doing sniping gate camps with this. I'm really looking forward to seeing that. Originally designed to attack immovable structures and extremely slow capital ship, Siege Mode should be a low-precision, high-damage result. As a result, the range and explosion radius penalties have been reduced, making them more in line with its core features. Explosion radius penalty has been reduced to 100% rather than 1000%. Thank God, Siege Mode on the Raven is actually useful now, the Raven Striker. New bonus, missile velocity reduced by 10%, same with turret range, so now you actually have to get closer. That's also a really creative nerf, I feel, for the Apocalypse Striker, because it is going to, if you go into Siege Mode, you have to be closer to the target, and your tracking is worse when you're closer, obviously, because angular velocity is higher. That's an interesting change. Is that going to be enough to push the Apocalypse Striker out of best ship in the game, in inverted commas, or at least the most popular ship in the game, and certainly one of the best for ratting? I don't know. I don't think so. I think that most people who are flying Apocalypse Strikers are not really going to notice much of a difference here, but for PvP instances where you're actually using Siege Mode, that is a big buff, and the same for the explosion radius penalty, reducing that from 1000% to 100%. Well, they took it from a frankly ridiculous number to a sane penalty. It's still going to massively reduce your application, but against siege targets, it means it's actually going to be able to hit capsuleer outposts, citadels, and capital ships really nicely. I like those changes. Both of those are really positive changes. Weapons. Small rifle railgun optimal range increased by 1 kilometer. Sounds pitiful and minor, but that is a huge bonus, especially for any ship that gets bonuses to optimal range, which is one of the key ones you'll see a lot on rifled railguns. It's a nice bonus for things like the Daredevil. Really happy with that, and hopefully the Cormorant can be a bit more of an actual, interdictor destroyer with that. Medium rifled railgun range increased by 2 kilometers, and tracking speed increased as well. So rifled, medium rifled are getting a tracking bonus. Large rifled railgun are getting a tracking bonus and optimal range increase as well. These are nice. Railguns, I think, are one of those things that don't get as much love as they should. I think railguns are a really solid system, and I think a lot of people massively underestimate them. I was having a conversation in the comment section the other day with a good friend of mine who used to be in Catskill. Ultimately, he was saying, the devs don't seem to favor railguns at all, and I was like, honestly, I think railguns are at a pretty good place. I don't think they need any major buffs or anything, and I think these are just nice buffs here that are actually going to do a little bit of, basically, a little bit of boosting to actually entice people to use them. If you use railguns right now, they are really good weapons anyway, and finally we've got Capital Rifle Railgun. Damage increased by 15%, oof. Activation time increased by 5%, so it's not a full, straight up 10%, 15% damage boost, because the activation time is going to be longer as well. Optimal range increased by 10 kilometers. Cool, so hopefully we'll see a bit more of the Moros around. Who knows? Small strike cannon damage increased by 10%, huzzah, some love to strikes, optimal range increased by 0.95 kilometers, and accuracy fall-off increased as well, so they've got a bit more range and more damage. The more damage is the important bit here. I would have liked to have seen them take the power grid consumption down a little bit as well, but hey, that's a good change. I think that strike cannons need a bit more damage. They are supposed to be incredibly powerful alpha with a long reload time, basically. This actually does emphasize that and adds a bit of range as well. Medium, 15% boost to damage. Nice, that Stabber Sniper is looking in a real good position right now. Optimal range reduced by 1.32 kilometers. Accuracy fall-off increased by 0.5. Tracking speed increased. Interesting. That's a very interesting fix. And there's very little I can say on that. Very little I can say on that because it's been a long time since I used a Strike Cane or a Strike Stabber. I do occasionally have a Strike Cinnaball that I have some fun with. I've seen some people PvPing with one of those recently because it's that whole thing of, people land on grid at distance and go, oh, it's a Cinnaball. It's kind of scary, but I'm far enough away. I can kind of examine the situation, take my time getting out, at which point you're locked and blapped by strikes. Awesome. More damage on the strikes. Happy with that. The optimal range reduction, that's quite a big optimal range reduction, but I guess it kind of balances. Large strike cannon damage increased by 10%, optimal range reduced by 2.64 kilometers, and accuracy fall-off increased by 1 kilometer. Okay, again, I think the large strikes had good enough range as it was, reducing them by 2.64, it could be worse. 10% additional damage, hopefully we'll see Strike Macariels and Strike Tempests actually being a thing again. That would be nice, that would be really, really nice. Who knows? Who knows? Or admittedly, large strike cannons there with the adjustment to the turret range of 10% reduction there. They only say turret range. I assume that's going to be optimal, and that really is actually going to hurt the Tempest Striker in regards to its optimal, but the damage it's going to be able to put out now in that mode is considerable, so I kind of look forward to seeing that. Capital Strike, cannon range increased by 10%, activation time reduced by 6.25, so they're firing faster, nice. Optimal range reduced by 4 kilometers, accuracy fall-off increased by 10 kilometers. Those are really nice changes. Again, the optimal dropping a little bit, but upping the accuracy fall-off, I'm okay with that. The additional damage is nice, and the activation time reduction is good, because my goodness, if when you are in something like a Naglfar with capital strikes, you can kind of hit the button to fire at something, go off, make a cup of tea, come back, and you'll still be waiting for it to reach its second shot. Increased capital missile launcher damage by 5%, increased capital beam laser damage by 10%. Capital beams, I'm not sure they needed a buff. I can certainly hear XPGE having a bit of a fun time with that. Here's Revelation sitting there on the gates out in Fountain are going to be having a fun time. Missile launcher damage, it doesn't need damage, it needs better application. This is still the NetEase problem when it comes to missiles. They don't understand how missile application works, so they tend to just throw bigger damage numbers at the situation and hope that'll fix it. That's 5% damage on poor application, so it's not actually a 5% overall boost. It's a much smaller boost than that. I don't know. We'll have to see how that works in regards to the Caldari Dreadnought doing some damage there. Defense modules, repair amount, activation time, and capacity need for small shield boosters increased by 100% accordingly. Oh, so the activation time, they're putting that back. Shame, that was nice having that nice and fast. So they're slowing down the activation time, increasing the capital need, the capacity need, but increasing the repair amount. Shame, I really liked the faster moving shield boosters. That felt like how shields should be. They're slowing it down. It's going to be exactly the same overall. At the end of all of this, it's basically exactly the same output. It's just slower cycles now, which I'm not a fan of that. I don't think that needed to happen. Repair amount, activation time, and capacity need for medium shield boosters increased by 66.7, so again they're slowing those down. The overall effect is pretty much the same. Reduced capital shield booster repair amount by 5% and capacity need by 2.5%. A lot of people complaining that shield on capitals is just flat out better than armor. I think people underestimate the fact that armor has significant advantages in regards to the lower capacity usage and the higher basic resistances, but hey, these are fairly minor. We'll see how that works. If that gets more people flying things like Revelations and Moros, I don't know. Reduced medium armor repair amount and activation time and capacity need by 10%. So that is actually a buff to medium armor repairers. Overall, the repair amount going down and the activation time going down is much the same, but the capacity need going down by 10% means that those are actually going to be even better than they currently are. And same for large armor repairers, everything going down by 20% accordingly. So armor repairers are going to be cycling faster. It means they've made shield more like armor and armor more like shield, and I really don't like these changes. They probably don't affect the balance of the game all that much, but they just change the actual feeling of being shield or armor tanking completely, and I don't like that. I think I liked the fact that there is a big feel difference between the two tank types as well. Capital armor repairer reduced by 10%, activation time reduced by 20%, so yeah, big buffs here to capital armor. Small remote shield booster repair amount increased by 10%, still not going to be enough to ever get me to undock a Bantam or a Burst. Medium repair increased by 10%, nice, so those are nice bonuses there to the Hurricane and the, the Drake. Logistics. Large remote armor repairer. Oh, interesting. Small and medium shield, but large remote armor repairer and capital armor repairer getting boosts as well, so nice changes there. Small remote capacitor transmitter capacitor need increased by 50%, so that's getting nerfed quite heavily. Which I honestly think is a good thing. I think capacitor should be one of those things that people struggle with in big fights. That is a good change in my opinion. Increased small armor link module range to 10 kilometers, changed the damage transfer to 60%. Self-armor resistance increased by 16% upon activation. Taking Metal Leviathan as an example, that's a good change. Across the board, looking at these armor resistances ones, 20 kilometers, yeah, having bigger range is a good thing for these ships. I would like to see more people actually using armor guardians, and I think any buffs like this that don't necessarily change the core of how it works, just make it a better module overall. Those are good things. These are really nice changes. I'm looking forward to seeing some Armor Guardians out on the field. Other modules: increased small energy neutralizer capacitor need by 20%, reduced medium energy neutralizer capacity need by 10%, and reduced large energy neutralizer capacitor need by 5%. So medium and large capacitors, neutralizers, are getting buffs, despite the fact that they're basically the only ones you ever use. You don't really ever use a small energy neutralizer. Most people are oversizing large one to medium ones because of the power grid requirements. That's interesting that they've nerfed small energy neutralizers, which don't get used, and buffed the ones that do. Interesting. Removed explosion radius and explosion velocity bonus for omnidirectional tracking link. Gain a third of its effect when not activated. Yeah, because there's no point having those. Drone navigation computer acceleration effect raised by 100%. Gain a sixth of its effect when not activated. That's nice. That's really nice. Nice to see the drone navigation computer getting a bit of love, and also nice to see that the omnidirectional tracking link and the drone navigation computer get a passive mode now. Huzzah! That's something drone pilots have been calling for a long time. Reduced flight velocity bonus for fighter micro warp drive guide to around 250%. Signal radius penalty changed to 250%. Gain a 24th of its effect when not activated. This is so that fighters aren't just so ridiculous anymore. That's a good change, I think, there. Large micro warp drive, which currently has an anomalous capacitor need lower than the afterburner, hence the following adjustment. Increase the capacitor need by 50%, which is 10% higher than the large afterburner. Good, that's kind of how it should be. Is it just 10%? 10% higher? Seems a little bit small, I don't know. Maybe I've not really actually compared those two side by side in so long, I'm not sure what the actual differences are. Either way, cool, that makes sense. It makes sense for a micro warp drive to use more capacitor than an afterburner. And it now does. Drones. Current features for drones are high in flight velocity, low in orbiting speed, and weapon tracking velocity, which performs as follows in battle: out of range, high speed tracking; slow orbit, out of range, high speed tracking; loop. This allowed drones to actually do far less damage than they're supposed to, thus increasing the tracking velocity and decreasing flight velocity in general. Okay, cool. So, small drone tracking velocity has gone up by 200%, but its flight velocity down by 50%. Increased medium drone tracking velocity by 150, reduced flight by 30, and large drones up by 100%, down flight velocity by 10%. This is good. This is good. One, it means drones are a little bit easier to kill in PvP because you can lock onto them just that little bit easier. It means that the bonuses that you get for Amar drone ships aren't as prominent, and there's a bit more reason to use the Galente versions, which are additional EHP. And the tracking velocity means that they are actually going to be hitting targets and applying their damage considerably better, making an overall buff for all drone vessels. Nice, especially for PvE. I'm looking forward to trying some of these out after this. The orbiting speed for fighter is increased by the same as its flight velocity due to the specialized nature of the fighter heavy rocket. It doesn't need to slow down for aiming during combat. Okay, fair enough. Other adjustments: Sentry drone EHP raised by 50%. Good, they should be harder to kill. Changed optimal range for large, medium, and small drones to 4.8, 4.8, and 2.4. Okay, Curator optimal range increased by 6 kilometers, increased accuracy fall off by 4, and tracking by 0.01. Yeah, sure. Okay, Curator could be interesting. I don't think many people use those, despite the fact they are actually really quite good, especially against very slow-moving targets. Or you just drop them at range and then you fly in a little bit further so that things are orbiting you, and thus lower tracking speeds are good for the Curator. I don't know. Guard optimal range increased by 12 kilometers, tracking velocity raised by a pitiful amount. Templar damage flat out increased, Einherji damage increased, Acolyte Warrior flight velocity down, Infiltrator Valkyrie flight velocity down, Praetor Berserker flight velocity down. So, yeah. The Amar and Mimitar are getting nerfed on their drones. In fairness, they are pretty much the only drones you ever see used, so I kind of get it. I wish they'd buffed the others rather than nerfing those, but hey, we'll see how that pans out. I'm primarily a drone pilot these days, drone and missiles, so we'll see how that pans out. I don't think that's going to suddenly change all that much. It's probably just going to bring things a little bit more in line. Implants, oh boy, here we have the fun. Thermal circulation, precision calibration, and range increased by 25%, so thermal circulation is getting a buff. Oh boy. Sniping technology, basic activation time changed from 60 seconds to 90 seconds, so that's getting nerfed? Is that getting nerfed? The one that nobody uses is getting nerfed? Am I reading that right? Okay. Optimal range and accuracy fall off for remote tracking increased by 7.5%. Okay, so it's getting kind of a buff as well. Interesting, just changing how it works. Bombard tactics, the bomb hardpoint optimization replaced with guided bombing. No need to return to the carrier. Oh, boo. You can guide bombs in space and perform bombard tactics. Due to bomb installation, propulsion, and guidance devices, the damage bonus is reduced to 150%. So it's getting nerfed and requiring to be less active, and I just don't get this. The whole point of implants were they were supposed to be a big thing to, reward you for being active in the game, and it seems like they want to make them more passive these days. Like, people are complaining that they can't AFK the game and get the full output. Yeah, that's the freaking point. Anyway, flight velocity for micro-thrusters, drones, and fighters reduced to 25%. Okay. Increased evasive maneuvers and flight velocity by 200%. Okay. That's interesting. That's quite scary. Remote shield adjusted capacitor need to 90% reduction upon activation. That's okay. Oof. Overheating, recharge, repair effectiveness, and capacitor need raised to plus 450%. Nice. And the micro scrambling and warp scramble strength changed to 2. Okay. Okay, I'll be honest, the automatic defense one, I don't actually know what those were beforehand, so I don't know if that's a positive or a negative. It just, yeah. Laboratory encounters. As experimentation of new module advances, pirate activity is beginning to increase. It'll be easier for capsuleers to find new missions now. The amount of booty, loot, and rigging experiment data obtained from repelling pirates will also increase. Okay, so does this look like we're getting new laboratory encounters? I've no idea what those are going to be. Probably more of the same PvE as we always get, but with different drop rates. Okay, that could be interesting. New content, new nanocore showroom. The display area has received an update. This is the whole bit when you're looking at which nanocores to put on your ship. Now on the customized ship appearance interface, you can choose, you can access a showroom with a huge curtain wall that offers a great view of outer space. So you can see what it looks like in space rather than in a glowy blue box. The CyberX nanocore makes its debut in New Eden with its futuristic and mechanical aesthetics thanks to the nanobot's smart utilization of the ship interface. More slots have been opened up on any given ship. Okay, delve deep into the heart of your ship, experience the power of the Interstellar Bazaar's most precise and sophisticated designs yet. Does that mean it adds additional slots, like high slots, mid slots, and low slots? Because if it does, that's basically paving the way forward for things like the Tech 3 cruisers. I'm really not sure how I feel about that. We will have to see. If that's the case, that's kind of huge, but at the same time, oh boy. Oh boy. Login rewards getting an update, something that's been asked for a lot. With the rise of productivity across New Eden, Concorders have opted to remove prototype modules and trial skins, while adding more practical reward items such as Lazarus units, probably Lazarus units and skill points. People are going to complain, more useless Lazarus units. Shut up, I don't care. Lazarus units are good, prototype rigs I do kind of use, but yeah, they tend to accumulate, and trial skins are just boring as hell. So giving us Lazarus units, that's cool. Save them up, use them when something big comes. LP Store gets an update. As the sleeper threat continues to grow, Concord has authorized access to more items. Assault drones. Okay, high flight velocity, long weapon range, and great accuracy, but have weak defenses, suited for circling or chasing down enemy capsuleers at range, and are effective counter to anti-drone pulse bombs, which aren't in the game yet, are they? I don't know, so we've got assault drones here, high flight velocity, long weapon range, great accuracy, weak defense. Offense drones, heavy drones designed to attack targets at close range. They have low weapon range, high attack power, and relatively good defense, which makes them an ideal choice if you want more firepower. However, their low flight velocity renders them powerless against fast targets and makes them easy prey for large enemy ships. These drones come in small, medium, and large sizes. You can exchange their blueprints at the LP store to manufacture them. Yes! Yes! Netties have finally learned, make it blueprints, because then people can buy them and sell them even if they're not using drones, and then industrialists get a cut of the pie as well. Hell to the frickin' yes, that is exactly what we've been looking for. Netties, thank you so much for actually fixing that one and making that happen. Basically, drones now have short-range and long-range versions, just like snub-nosed and rifled railguns, autocannons and strike cannons, that kind of thing. Awesome. I really like these changes. I'm excited to fly these. I'm really excited to fly these. The anti-drone pulse bomb finally makes it into New Eden! Okay, faced with growing threat of drones, researchers at New Eden have developed a new weapon can disrupt the communication channels of surrounding drones, causing them to overheat and damaging their circuits. Due to the high energy, thank you for rewording it so it doesn't sound like it only hits shields. Due to the high energy cost, this type of weapon can only be fitted on a high slot. They're used mainly by battleships, so they're going to have high power grid requirements. Note that these weapons impact any drones indiscriminately, so exercise caution when friendly drones are nearby, including logistics drones. You can exchange their blueprints at the LP store to manufacture them. Yes, manufacturing for the win. Good stuff here. Nanocore supply chest, make it easier for capsuleers to get their desired nanocores. Concords removed the original nanocores and loaded them into supply chests for capsuleers to choose from. No more, oh, I really want the Omen NCO core. Now it's just an Amar NCO core and you choose which ship. Yes, more of this. New event, support strategy capital ship manufacturing contest. We're going to skip through these fairly quickly. This is one of those things where basically, yes, they're going to be announcing the winners of the manufacturing contest. Interface 0, another Interstellar Bazaar. And so the CyberX themed music has overtaken the station. Nice. Very dangerous in nature, but leaves quite a striking impression. There are all sorts of events you can participate in. CyberX, Lucky Chart, Interstellar Bonus, Interstellar Bazaar, capital ship maneuvers, participate to receive luck and other rich rewards. More RNG crates and stuff like that. Lucky Chart. Obtain luck by opening lucky chests. Capsuleers will be awarded according to their rankings on the Lucky Chart. Yay, big spender event. Interstellar Bazaar, lucky chest. Yay, big spender event. Discount codes and coupons can be used. So we're getting another Neon Rain Illusory Ghost. Keep your eye on channels and Discord. I'll be getting active and giving out a load of those coupons because, quite frankly, netties can suck it when it comes to charging people the ridiculous prices they want. I will be giving out as many discount codes as I can. Unfortunately, I can't give everyone a 50%. Interstellar offering, when luck obtained from Lucky Chest reaches the specified thresholds, everyone gets bonuses as before. Interstellar bonus, capsuleers can unlock the Plex refund privilege by spending Aurum. The more Aurum you get, the more Plex you get back at the end. Starry Carnival, all corporation members can unlock the option bonus of the entire corporation when the accumulated luck. You have bonuses for that as well, and the capital ship maneuver. Okay, it's your typical big spender event. It's literally Illusory Ghost or Neon Rain all over again, but this time around it's a different nanocore. Woo. Optimizations, the estimated price has been updated based on the market transaction record, which means these are official patch notes. Added a limit to the Klein well usage. Pilots cannot use it if they have a weapons timer. Good. Added a display for the Nihilist space protection timer. Using any module immediately removes the protection. Good. Added a warp fleet option to the jump bridge control panel. Good. Some attributes in item tips are currently unavailable, have been hidden. Okay. Optimize the criteria for judging whether there's insufficient fuel, taking the remaining fuel and cargo hold items into account. Good. Optimization's good. Bug fixes. Fixed the issue where players couldn't log into the game due to have too many items. Lol. Fixed the issue where some industrial ships didn't have an icon indicating their faction. Fixed the issue where some modules wouldn't activate sometimes, and fixed the issue where implant blueprints wouldn't show up when filtering items. Cool. Some really nice changes. Honestly, I think that it's a little bit light on balance. There's a lot of stuff I would have put in there. I'm not going to sit here and rant on about it now because we're already 31 minutes into this video, about 32 minutes actually. I don't want to talk about what's not in here. I'll probably do a separate video on what I would have liked to have seen in the patch notes that isn't, and kind of, you know, wish list for the April patch when that comes again. But hey, we got patch, we got balance, and overall most of it looks good. I'm not a fan of the changes to shield and armor, but hey, I'll just deal with that. I'll just live with that, you know? Anyway, folks, sorry this video's come out a little bit later than usual. Hopefully you've had a bit of fun with this one. My goodness, I have spoken so fast. I'm not sure I need to go to gym, but I'm actually 5 minutes late, so I'm going to run off. Happy sailing, folks, and see you all in New Eden!